Hey guys, welcome back to Arcade Garage. It's New Year 2022. I fly out to work tomorrow and I don't have 3 videos while I'm away, so I'm making one now, and this might be the only one you guys have for a couple of weeks. If there was none last week, then you know that this is the only one, which means you have nothing next week. But yeah, if you had the teaser video last week, then I managed to somehow squeeze 3 videos in. But anyway, quick update. It's all in, wiring's all buttoned up, apart from thermo fan, which I'll be finishing that anyway. But all the lines, all relocation. I started to get the passenger side all in, ECU's all wired in. Not that you can see it, it's down there, I'll put a photo up. And yeah, just go finish off the driver's side, shifters in, everything. A little bit sunburnt, went forward driving, got bogged. Put a photo in here if I remember. And then went water skiing yesterday as well, so I probably got burnt on top of that again. I might look red now, but you should have seen me yesterday. There's a whole different world of red. But anyway, today, got the laptop here. Gonna do a screen capture and set you guys up. So it'll be like a screen within a screen type thing. We're gonna be setting up the ECU. While I've already set everything up, I'm gonna run through everything that you will set up on the aftermarket ECU. So you won't see me probably input any data or anything because it's already there, but I'll show you everything I did. Yeah, so I'll get the GoPro set up, and then next bit we'll see is we're on the screen capture and everything going. So, but first I need to turn the ignition on, obviously, so we'll do that. So got the key sitting in here. So go. Oh yeah, I got my fuel gauge in there and working. You can see the digital dash. I know I'm going to change that one out there. That's exhaust gas temp, which I was just going to use as an in-cabin one, but it only goes as low as 200 degrees, which isn't any good for in-cabin. So I'll find another one. But you can see there the dash. The colours don't come through on the GoPro as nice. It looks hell faded. But anyway, let's get set up and get hooked up to the ECU. Alright, so we're here, the laptop, as you guys can see on the screen. For this, I've got a G4 Plus, so open PC link, got the USB plugged in. You'll see it's searching, ECU's connected, already brings up the tune in there. But anyway, we'll go to config. And so, you can set the ECU up. Here, there's configuration. So you bring this up, and this is here where you set how many cylinders. So as you can see, 6 cylinders, it's a 4-stroke, no need for custom top dead center. Don't worry about the board rate, it's about firing order. So that's where you set it. In an Ecotech, it goes as 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So that's all good. Then you can go to fueling, fuel setup, fuel main. I've got it set up in sequential injection mode. Fuel equation mode is traditional. You know what I mean? All this here, it's all to do with your injectors. And there's injector setup here, which is, you know, you can click on that, put your data in. Here you've got your injector dead time, short pulse width, all that crap. So I can close fuel, and here you've also got all your cold start, override, acceleration enrichment. Then I have the target table, your fuel table, all that stuff there. Ignition setup. So here, got it set up as direct spark, falling, dual mode. What do you have it set in? So I've got all that there, and then here you have your dual control table, ignition table, idle ignition table, which I've also set up along here, which whatever screen you're looking at. Then you can start to set up all your auxiliary outputs. So as you see here, auxiliary outputs, aux 1 and wide in is the boost solenoid, the MAP valve. Then aux 2 I've got small thermo, big thermo. I've got fuel pump 2 there. Aux 6 I've got water pump. I did have something there but ended up moving it. well, I had fuel pump 2 here and fuel pump there, but I had to change that out for whatever reason, which doesn't concern you guys. Water pump there. With the e-throttle, with this setup, you need to have a relay that powers that. So this powers the relay. I don't have anything in aux 8, and then aux 9 and 10 are dedicated to go to the e-throttle. That's what drives the e-throttle motor. It gives it power in either direction to open and close. It swaps the polarity. Here you can create virtual auxes, so I won't get into that. Yeah, that was concerned someone else. So here you have like your engine fan control, so you can only have it turn on after a certain kilometre, so like you can only have your fan turn on under say 10 kilometres or whatever. I mean, here you can set where they come on. I've got a small one at 60, the big one at 84. I will pump them up higher because you obviously want the engine to run at a certain temperature. You can have your tacho out, speedo out, fuel pump control, so like you can have it here where it primes to 2 seconds when you turn the key to on. You can set whatever time you have. I just have 2 seconds because that works fine for me. Now, as you can see here, I've got on the Fury G4 Plus, you get 8 injector drivers. You can assign the extras for something else. As you can saying that, I've got aux out, fuel pump 2 here, which I don't need on at all, so I'll turn that off actually. I'll save that. And we will write that to the ECU. Look at that. That's how quick it is with a link. You don't get that with the Haltech pieces of shit. Anyway, and then you can have, you know, your tacho settings for heading out. I don't need that because I don't have any tacho on, so I'm just going to leave it on anyway. And you can check, there's multipliers, so if it doesn't match your dash correctly, you've got speedo outs, ECU hold power, fuel pump and fuel pump 2. Got that set up, so that's all that. Then you have your auxiliary outputs, ignition, so they only have 6 ignition drivers, which is perfect for what I'm doing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're all pre-configured. Then here, digital inputs, so I'm only using 2 so far. I've got others, but I haven't configured them just yet. So VSS input, left front wheel speed, so that's basically speed from a gearbox, and then a non-driven wheel speed. I've also got clutch, traction control off as well, this and that. Analog inputs, so this is where I wired in my temp sensor, intake air temp sensor, all temp. So for example, if you want to set that up in this, all you do here is you just double click that, it opens this box, you double click, and there's your list of stuff that you can put in here. Obviously I'm not using any of that, so don't need it. Then in the volt, AN volt section, I got my MAP sensor, oil pressure, fuel pressure, 2 rotary dial switches, 4 AN4 I'm using for the boost, and AN5 is for launch. So that's throttle position sensor main, throttle position sensor sub, and then accelerator position sensor main and sub because I'm using electric throttle. And then if you have custom coolant temp sensors that have their own data, you can go down to the cal tables here, you can input them in. So for example, coolant temp sensor I've got there, and then sensor type, you can pick from these or from a cal table where you put in the information that comes with the sensor. So X amount of voltage means this temperature degrees, and it reads from that. So that's all that there. Then triggers, which is something you set up to get the car running. So this here, trigger mode, it's multi-tooth because it's not one tooth. These use 18 teeth. Trigger priority is trigger 1, so meaning that my trigger 1 wiring on this is to the crank, which is the main one. And then you can have RPM filtering so that it like buffers it a little bit. And then you can set up the triggers here. So for a V6 Ecotech Commodore, I've got it as optical hull, filtering is low, pull up is on, trigger edge is falling, multi-tooth position, meaning is it the crank or cam, it's on the crank, tooth count is 18 because there's 18 teeth on it. That's how I set that up. Then trigger 2 is here, and same thing, optical hull on, falling, and sync mode is cam pulse ×1 because it's got a cam magnet in. I don't know if you guys remember seeing in my video, but on the sprocket that goes on the cam, like the cam gear type, I guess you want to call it, has a magnet in it. That is the one time seeing that the sensor picks up. So that's there. And then when you get it started, you ideally want a timing light, and that's where calibrate comes in. So if you call it your double click set base timing, then you can adjust it to what the trigger offset needs to be so it lines up. So you can set it so that's 10 degrees, so you should see on your timing light it stays on 10 degrees, and you move the offset till that lines up, and then that's all sorted. So there's multiple videos online about how to do that, and there's very good help on here. Now there's other features in here for Motorsport, like there's anti-lag, which I don't need, launch control, which it's got a shit ton of settings there, gear shift control, so that's like flat foot shifting, stuff like that, and traction control, which I will be setting up, I haven't done properly yet. And you got idle speed control, so whether it's electric throttle or IAC valve, you can set all that there. Electronic throttle, that's what I use there. And you got boost control, so you got your tables. I'll go to the tabs that I set up anyway. Knock control, which I don't use. BVT control if you have that. And then chassis and body, so you can actually have gear detection. So it can calculate from the RPM, the speed coming in, what gear you're in. There's anti-theft, starter control, transmission, AC clutch control, all that kind of stuff, and torque management, all that. So if I go across to my tuning page here, now this isn't any of Justin's maps, this is just what I've roughly put in, so don't go thinking that this is the be all and all tune, but mainly here you can see that my sensors are working. ECT is reading 22 degrees, IAT is reading 32, all temps 26. There's some residual fuel pressure there from when we're primed. All pressure is obviously 0. This is the O2 sensor, also known as lambda, so obviously that's not on. This is showing here that the MAP sensor is reading 0. This is reading here that the throttle position is at 4.2%. That's the throttle blade here, so if I move this, you should see it move up. That's closing it, sorry. And then yeah, see it moving up. That's reading that right, and you can see that my boost switch is on 12, battery voltage is at 13, launch control status is armed, which I haven't set that up yet, that's why, and launch limit hasn't been set, so I don't see that. Digital input 6, that's to see if the switch is on for traction control, it's off at the moment. And I've got my lambda temp here so I can see the temperature of the wideband sensor. So another thing you need to do when you get this all set up is you need to calibrate the TPS sensor and also the MAP sensor. So from memory it was ECU controls here. You got a TPS setup, you click that and it'll give you the prompts. Simply will be, you usually click on it and then it tells you throttle 100%, you push it down and then it says like calibrated, and then next, you hit next and then it says 0. You do that, take it off, it's calibrated. That MAP sensor calibration auto does it, so that it goes to your correct barometric. I think that's barometric. So if you know what that is, it's how far above sea level you are per se. So in Australia, we're pretty lucky. We're pretty much basically at 0 or a couple 100 meters. But say, like you might, if you watch YouTube, a lot of Americans, they say like they're 3,000 above sea level, 4,000, and they call it DA. So that there will calibrate it compared to how high you are, so you're always reading at 0 rather than above it you're already reading positive or negative, which isn't correct for how the motor's running. So you calibrate that to where you are according to sea level. And then yeah, you can start to adjust things. So I set up all these tabs up the top here. So the config stays there, the tuning stays there, but I've adjusted all this. Logging is for your logs. So I have actually started this, which you guys would have seen last week. I'm filming this after, but you go to your log files. I've got this one here called first start, which will be this one here. So let me get that back. So you can see from here where it started, you got all the details there. Yeah, it wasn't logging through the laptop, it was logging through the ECU, hence why all these ones here aren't showing, because I haven't set them up to show on the ECU logging, because it stores up memory really quickly. But anything that I really needed, so you know, you can see what throttle position was, you can see AFR, which was a little lean, but it's still fine for idle, and you know, engine coolant temp, engine IATs, had everything there. Oil pressure was great, fuel pressure was great, lambda temp, so I knew the sensor was working fine. That's all there. Mixture map is like for self-tuning type thing, so this goes from the log, and obviously that there's wrong, and you don't use this as a be-all end-all, it's just a rough indication. I set up tables like idle and start, so my idle control is open loop E-throttle. I like it in open loop, I find that easier for me. A lot of other tuners might use closed, but I prefer this. So I found that with 3.5% duty cycle on that, it idled at around 1,000, which was perfect. So I can actually, these here, change that to 3.5%. I can save the tune and then store it to the ECU. And you can see my idle target. So if you're in closed loop, it will read the RPM, and then the idle base position table will read the RPM, it will read the idle target RPM, and then off that it will adjust the idle base position to try and match it. It will do that on its own. And then crank enrichment is how much additional fuel it puts in when it's trying to crank. So everyone's fuel will be different, everyone's setup will be different. This for me on E85 has worked great, especially for cold starts. It has, yeah, worked really good. Crank straight away. When you got a warm up enrichment, so you set it for a certain amount of time. After it sees RPM above, I think it's 500 RPM, and it will add, as you see, this number here is in a percentage of fuel that'll add on from the main fuel table till say 30 seconds or whatever. This table here is a lot of people's favorites. This is the idle ignition table. So when it is idling in the idle conditions, ignition moves across to this table, and this is where you can have a lot of fun. You can swing it really hard. So you can see here, 50 below, 50 above is all 18 degrees. I'm not swinging any timing at all. That's when it's just sitting there. So what you guys heard in that video, this is proof. This tune came up from the ECU that's in there. Yeah, and then as you can see here, this actually, these tables and link work backwards. So if it says negative, that actually means above, like you're above target. So this is pulling timing out to try and bring it down, and vice versa. If it overshoots, idles high, well, sorry, undershoots, so it drops RPM, will give it extra timing to try and bring it back up. That's like if you're cruising along and then clutch in after driving, or if you give it a rev, that's for that stuff. It won't really idle past the 50 and negative 50, maybe 100 and negative 100 if you're really aggressive on it. But anyway, yeah, so you can see that was a raw idle of the cam. It's 18 degrees all around. It was just cam doing its thing. And post-start enrichment, I can't remember exact, I think this was like, well, there's certain times, like anyway, you can right click and the what's this brings up the help. So it will show you exactly here for, oh, there you go. So there, that shows everything there. So post start was before warm up. So post start decay time, so you can set the time. So I think the usual is 4 seconds, or post start is 15 seconds, and warm up original might be 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes. Whatever, so that's the same thing. It adds this much extra percentage of fuel in, which is why you don't really worry about the idle lambda until it's out of the warm up and start enrichment tables, because if you adjust that table so it's running as it is, then when it actually is running normally, some of those adjustments are really lean, because this is putting extra fuel in, which then you take it out of the main table, and then once it's warm, there's no fuel there in the table as you take it out, if that makes any sense. So you let these do it. Essentially you tune the car when it's warm, get everything right, your idle right, your cruising right, you're on power, everything, and then you go back and do cold start tunes after that, which is just adjusting this. You don't touch your main fueling table from there on. It's probably the best way I can explain it. So going across, I have a big one on fuel table just so I can, instead of having a little one like tuning, I can have a big one of fuel. It makes it easier. I've got my AFR target lambda, which don't use this as the be all end all again for the KPA. This is just something that I jotted in and interpolated to a higher KPA range and what my tuner did. Same thing with timing, the timing table there. Once again, don't use that. No idea if that's correct. Limiter, 2 steps. So as you can see here, this is for the dial. I've got the settings here, like position 1 will be 3,500, position 12 is 5,000. So depending on the track, depending on my setup, etc, etc. And this is an RPM limit table in general. So until my motor hits 50 degrees, the limiter will be at 4,500, so you can't rev the piss out of it. And before, when I was on the semi-built motor, so the L32 rods, diamond pistons, my actual limiter was 6,600. That's what we spent it to. And then we had an engine protection in at 120 degrees. If the engine temp read that, it would limit RPM to 4,000. So basically, you know, if you're roll racing or drags and temperature got up to there, but you didn't notice the gauge or whatever, you go to do another hit, it wouldn't let you. You'd hit limiter early, kind of like a fail safe. And then the map limit table here, same thing. So the boost controller will only work up to a certain amount. So for example, like 200 kPa is about 14.5, 14.7 PSI boost. So at 40 degrees, the wastegate controller will work to get to 14.5. I've got a 21 PSI spring, so that doesn't matter anyway. But then say at 60, it would go to 290, and then 70 onwards would be 330 kPa, which I won't ever hit that high, but it just allows room for error in case you overshoot. And then at 110 degrees, fail safe again, it would go back to 200, so it would only, that's basically lower than my wastegate pressure, so I only ever allow wastegate spring if it's over too hot, which is regardless, because it's also got the RPM limit in. I've also got a fuel pressure table in there as well, which I haven't put in here. And I've got boost control. As you can see, everything is at 0 because I haven't set it, but see how you got the line here? So I'll go rotate my, my dial and you'll see that move across. So as you can see, moved it across and moved it back a bit, moved across again, so show that. And this is a ratio table, so when 0 to 100, so meaning it will interpolate between the two. So say when I'm a dyno, this will have, this table here will have the actual boost target. This one will stay at 0, so that when I'm on switch 12, it'll be 100% using this table. So I'm at 50%, it will interpolate between the two. So say I was on position 6 and position 6 here, and on this one here I had 50%, but this one here I had 6. It would then use it as 25% duty cycle. It interpolates between the two. Or if you had like 80-20, it would interpolate the difference between that, whatever that would be. that's just how that works. Yeah, so that's that screen there. I have this one for driving so that if I have a laptop in the car, obviously I don't need this now because I've got the digital screen, I can see, but with the laptop in the car and I just wanted to monitor a pull or whatever, I can put this on the seat beside me. I can see the target for that area and then see where it actually is, see how far off, and have a big thing on lambda so I know straight away. Transient throttle, obviously this needs adjusting because it's a whole new setup, but this is like when you stab the throttle, how that works. And overrun, so this would be like your pops and bangs, extra fuel flames. But essentially that is how you set up the ECU. This has been a very long video, so this is where I'm going to end it. Hopefully I have time to film another one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this and it's helpful how to set it up on a Link ECU. It will work for other ECUs. It's the same theory, just different options and how everything's laid out on the laptop. But anyway, until then, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys on the next one.